ta'ala has given you these things is because He loves you. And should you not love then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You can teach your children in this way to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when that love is there, I think and I hope and we pray that no matter what path this child takes as they grow up, that they'll always have that somewhere underneath. And inshallah at some point we'll come back to it, even if they stray this way or that way. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه غفور رحيم. سبحانك الله وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Your number one for local, national and international news across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough on 106.2 FM and around the world online. This is Salaam Radio.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलामु अलैकुम सामीन न्यूज़ अपडेट्स के साथ मैं हूं मुकर्रम अब्बास। सबसे पहले आज की हेडलाइंस पर एक नज़र। मुत्तहिदा अरब अमारात के वज़ीर ख़ारजा ने कतर पर मज़ीद पाबंदियां आयद करने की अफवाहों की तरदीद कर दी है। अमेरिका की जानब से तुर्क एयरलाइंस की परवाज़ों पर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आलात ले जाने पर आयद पाबंदी ख़त्म कर दी गई। रूस शाम में गैर फौजी इलाकों में फौजी दस्ते तैनात करने पर गौर कर रहा है। इसराइल ने मायदे के तहत 10 ड्रोन्स को भारत के हवाले करने का फैसला किया है। जनूबी अफ्रीका में बस और ट्रक में तसादम, 18 अफराद हलाक और 14 जख्मी। चीन में तूफानी बारिशों और लैंडस्लाइडिंग से तबाही, 16 अफराद हलाक। और आईसीसी वुमेन्स क्रिकेट वर्ल्ड कप में आज पाकिस्तान का मुकाबला ऑस्ट्रेलिया से हो रहा है। और अब इन खबरों की तफसील। मुत्तहिदा अरब अमारात ने खलीजी ममालिक की जानब से कतर पर मजीद पाबंदियां आयद करने की अफवाहों की तरदीद कर दी। ये बात मुत्तहिदा अरब अमारात के वजीर खारजा शेख अब्दुल्ला बिन ज़ैद अल नहयान ने जर्मन वजीर खारजा से मुलाकात में कही। सऊदी अरब, मिस्र, मुत्तहिदा अरब अमारात और बहरीन की जानब से कतर को इन ममालिक की 13 शराइत पूरी करने के लिए दी जाने वाली मोहलत आज रात खत्म हो गई। अमेरिका की जानब से तुर्क एयरलाइंस की परवाजों पर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आलात ले जाने पर आयद पाबंदी खत्म कर दी गई है। सऊदी एयरलाइंस ने भी कहा है कि उनकी परवाजों पर लैपटॉप और दीगर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आलात ले जाने पर पाबंदी 19 जुलाई को खत्म हो जाएगी। रवां बरस मार्च में अमेरिकी हुकूमत ने सिक्योरिटी इक़दामात के तहत मुसाफिरों को जहाज में इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आलात बशमूल लैपटॉप और टैबलेट साथ न रखने का पाबंद बनाया था। रूस शाम में ज़िर-गौर गैर फौजी इलाकों में फौरी तौर पर अपने हिफाजती दस्ते तैनात कर सकता है। रूसी मुज़ाकरातकार ने बताया है कि अगर ईरान और तुर्की के दरमियान शाम में बफर जोन्स के क़याम का कोई मायदा तय पा जाता है तो रूस 2 से 3 हफ्तों के अंदर इन इलाकों में अपने फौजी और पुलिस अहलकार तैनात कर सकता है। भारत और इसराइल के दरमियान 2 साल कबल 400 मिलियन अमेरिकी डॉलर की मालियत के मुसल्लह ड्रोन्स अफ्रीका की इमरजेंसी सर्विसेज के मुताबिक इस हादसे में मजमूई तौर पर 14 अफराद जख्मी भी हुए हैं, जिनमें 2 की हालत तशवीशनाक बताई जाती है। चीन में तूफानी बारिशों से बड़े पैमाने पर तबाही हुई है। मुख्तलिफ हादसात में 16 अफराद हलाक और 10 लापता हो गए। चीन के जनूबी इलाके में शदीद बारिशों के बायस 90,000 से ज्यादा अफराद को महफूज मकामात पर मुंतकिल कर दिया गया। मकामी हुक्काम के मुताबिक सैलाबी रेलों और लैंडस्लाइडिंग के बायस 7,000 से ज्यादा घर तबाह हुए। आईसीसी वुमेन्स वर्ल्ड कप में आज पाकिस्तान का मुकाबला ऑस्ट्रेलिया से है, जहां कैंगरूज वुमेन्स ने कौमी टीम के खिलाफ टॉस जीतकर पहले बैटिंग का फैसला किया है। पाकिस्तान वुमेन्स टीम में एक तब्दीली की गई है, जहां मिडिल ऑर्डर बैट्समैन जवेरिया खान की जगह मरीना इकबाल को टीम में शामिल किया गया है। दूसरी जानब ऑस्ट्रेलिया की कप्तान इंजरी के बायस आज का मैच नहीं खेलेंगी। सामीन, ये थी इस वक्त तक की अपडेट्स। मजीद अपडेट्स के साथ आपकी खिदमत में दोबारा हाजिर होंगे। तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफिज।
Local, national and international news. This is Salaam Radio. This is Salaam Radio.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, delighted to have your company. Today I have a co-presenter. Yes, and it is a very famous personality of Peterborough. And she needs no introduction.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the Ansar Ali Show. This is Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Shabina, for making the time to join us today, because we've got quite a program lined up for you. It's something that we've all been looking forward to, because we'll be welcoming our newly elected Member of Parliament for Peterborough, Fiona Onasania, here on Salaam Radio, sharing with us her first 4 weeks as a Member of Parliament and some of the challenges that we as a community in Peterborough that we have, and what strategies, what hopes we have of her raising those issues and concerns on our behalf as a Member of Parliament. And also joining us, we'll have Becky Selleck, another well-known local person. She was also a candidate in the general election, and Becky is very active in the community as well, and she'll be joining us as well, and we'll have a three-way conversation. So I'll be surrounded by a group of wonderful women, highly intellectual, doing lots of good work, and that includes our dear colleague here on Salaam Radio, Dr. Shabina Asad Qiyum. So stay with us until 6 o'clock, inshallah. We've got a fantastic program lined up for you, and in due course we'll invite these people to take the callers' questions as well. But I think we've got a long list of questions already.
Yes,
so I think
do.
we'll just go through that. We're going to ask Fiona to come into the studio, and we're going to be asking lots of questions. And I know many people have got lots of questions, and hopefully we will be covering some of the questions that you have in mind as well, because we have been asking people over the last good few days since we arranged this to come forward with any particular questions.
Absolutely, we have been. And what an exciting era in politics it's been, especially for Peterborough, Uncle Answer. The fact of the matter is, we have seen, not only, we've seen first female MP, and from an ethnic minority background as well, which is wonderful. Wonderful for the history of Peterborough. The first time in 29 years. So very proud to have Miss Fiona Onasania on Salaam Radio. Hello there, Fiona.
Welcome. We're all very excited to seeing both of you here. Fiona and Becky with us. Fiona, our MP for Peterborough, newly elected MP. And like I said, it really is exciting having Becky with us as well. You're with us for the first time as well, Becky, here on Salaam Radio.
Great to be here. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Wonderful.
Good to have you here as well on Salaam Radio. We've got, we're all set to go now.
Absolutely. Yes, we are.
We have been ever so excited by welcoming both of you because, you know, it's exciting times for Peterborough.
Yes.
First ethnic minority woman, black woman to be elected as a Member of Parliament for Peterborough.
Yes.
You know, first and foremost, congratulations to you,
Thank you
from
very,
the
very
Salaam Radio
much.
team, and our commiserations to all the other candidates as well.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, if we summed it up, it was a very well disciplined campaign from all the candidates as well, and that needs to be appreciated, you know, in politics these days, because sometimes things can get out of hand. But I think all of you conducted yourselves immensely
Thank
well.
you. Yes.
Yes.
I think we really wanted to focus on the fact that this was about being a voice for Peterborough. Myself and the other candidates, it wasn't about catfights and seeking to belittle each other, but rather trying to make sure that people of Peterborough understood that we were in this because of them. We all sought to have a voice for Peterborough, and that's what we wanted to do.
That's
Right.
brilliant, brilliant. It's a wonderful, it's a pleasure to meet you, first of all, Fiona, and congratulations. Tell me,
very much.
I think one of the burning questions is, what led you to want to stand to be MP for Peterborough?
So my passion is people, and I say, people always say that as like a throwaway comment, but I actually come from a legal background. I was a practicing solicitor. The reason why I went into law is because law affects people in every area of their life, whether unfortunately you lose someone, or you want to buy a house, or you have a problem at work. So for me, politics is an even bigger platform to help as many people as you can, and so that's why I went for it.
That's great, and obviously the result was positive, so hence we have you here today.
Yes.
Describe your feelings as hearing that result, because it was a close one, wasn't it?
It was. So I got 22,950 votes, and I believe Stuart Jackson got 22,300 and something. There's 607 votes between us, so it's a very narrow majority. But I just felt so blessed and honoured that people, 22,950 people, put a cross in their box for me.
Yeah.
That feeling hasn't gone away, that I feel very privileged, and I want to serve the people. I want to say thank you for putting your faith in me, and now let me pay that back to you and do the best that I can for all of you.
Well, that's brilliant. And for those of you who have just joined us here on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM, we'd be eager for you to join the conversation. We have Miss Fiona Onasanya, the MP for Peterborough. Please put forward your questions on text and WhatsApp on 07745 278 978, or call on our studio telephone number, which is the Peterborough code 01733 602 133. And you can see us on Facebook Live, I believe.
Absolutely, we're live on Facebook. That's why we were going to ask our MP to move
over
a little towards. That's right. So we can get everyone.
So
It's going to be nice and cosy in here. We like it nice and cosy in here in Salaam Radio, don't we?
Warm afternoon already. Yes.
Becky, welcome to you as well.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you, Ansa.
And you know, we were saying, you know, it's first 4 weeks.
Yes. It's been so surreal from the first day when you arrive. It's like being at a freshers fair. You get pulled to all these different rooms. They're giving you an ID card. Here's your laptop, here's your iPad. Check your PIN codes, check security, speak to all different people, make sure that we have what we need from you and know who you are and that you're safe. And then you're shown around the building. I still get lost. I got lost every day. So I'll come out of a corridor thinking I'm supposed to be somewhere else and look a little bit lost, and one of the doorkeepers will come along and say, "Madam, are you lost again?" I say, "Yes, I am." And so that's a bit surreal, looking at the library. It's just amazing, so much architecture, so much history, but also to be part of that. And every time I sit on those benches, I feel like just bursting with just so much honour and so much, I'm just so grateful. I'm just like, I can't believe that people have placed me here. It's amazing, and I'm so grateful.
That's wonderful. And Becky, my question to you is, obviously you stood for the Liberal Democrats as a candidate. What made you go on to that decision? I've seen you obviously on various forums, you've been part of BBC Question Time, etc., come out with some very passionate views. What inspired you to contest the election this time in Peterborough?
I suppose I've always been a committed Liberal Democrat and a local campaigner,
Sure.
doing local stuff, and I want to advertise the street party we've got on Sunday at some point in our community. So yes, I can't flag that up. But aside from that, I get it's like Fiona was saying, it's passionate about people and making a difference. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to elect your first engineer as your MP in Peterborough. So there's other groups that are incredibly important in our community in terms of how we approach something like Brexit and what the threats and opportunities there are that underpins the whole of our economy and our ability to share that wealth with other people, our ability to fund the housing, the education, the NHS that we need to fund, all those services, is critically dependent upon lots of things, and a significant portion of that is engineering.
Absolutely. And I think that you covered quite a lot about the cuts to public spending in your maiden speech, Fiona, which I listened to with a lot of zeal and interest, and was quite, it's very commendable that you brought to the forefront issues regarding the NHS and education, something that we know that Peterborough has suffered with in terms of education, and we've seen the falling grades in the area, and there are obvious cuts to funding that have taken place. What is your stance on it, and do you have any forward view or plan as to how to address this in Peterborough, particularly when so much has been spoken about but there hasn't really been any forward progression?
I think that was one of the main, so two of my main issues when it comes to education is that a university for Peterborough is much needed, but has been talked about for about the past 14 to 20 years. And this isn't something new that I'm bringing to the table. This is something that people have said, yes, that city needs a university. That's true. And then nothing's been done. So actually with James Palmer, the new mayor under the devolution deal, he has identified 4 sites. Funding has now been ring-fenced. I had a meeting on the 1st of this month where I got the leader of Cambridge City Council, Lewis Herbert, to come and address people so they could raise their concerns and say, look, without trying to be too downhearted about it, this has been promised before. Will it actually be delivered? So my job is to try and get behind it and make sure I put pressure on. Yes, you've identified 4 sites. Which of those which one of those 4 four are you going to choose?
Yeah.
We've got the money, right, so now let's talk about how we're going to build. Who are the contractors?
Sure.
But we need to actually put pressure on that.
Yeah.
With regards to the attainment levels, I think that yes, they are low, and I think though we need to work together with the schools, because pointing at them saying you failed our children is not the right way to go.
Yeah.
With the limited resources they have and the shrinking funding, they've done a very good job so far. But we need to go from good to great. We need to go from good enough to actually good.
Yeah.
And so what can I do to help you? Teachers, what would you like to see from me? I've been to Jack Hunt. I've even been to Ormiston Academy, which isn't in my patch. But to speak to them and say, look, you're year 13, you're going forwards. Where you are right now says nothing about who you can become. Let's apply ourselves. Even if you haven't got the grades that you were hoping for, we can still do something. We can build from that. You don't have to keep doing the same thing.
Sure.
So if there's things that I can do, and I said to the teachers, I want to work with you, I don't want to reprimand you. I'm not coming to admonish you and say you've done a terrible job, because I know you're doing the best you can with what you have.
Yeah.
So how can I give you more so that we can do better?
Sure, but surely after so many years of seeing these results come out, I mean, in terms of SATs, we're probably one of the lowest in the country.
Yes.
Something has to be done.
Absolutely.
It can't just be restricted to dialogue with teachers. There's something
No.
a little bit more grassroots level. Do you think the problem lies within home? Do you think it's the way children are perceived that education should be delivered? And it's all well and good we have a university, but then we need the students to actually go.
May I come in there? Would that be?
Yeah, of
Because I
course.
think I wouldn't disagree with what you said so far, but I think something else on that that's really interesting is about people's aspirations and the level of empowerment that people feel, the level that they feel, that the extent to which children feel they can do things, the young people feel able to do things. And I think some really positive things going on locally. There was a careers fair last week that was really well attended, with a lot of young people going to it and getting excited about it, and with a lot of companies there that were talking about jobs in Peterborough and opportunities, and that could fire up children or young people who haven't yet finished their education but are in the middle, to really want to attain what they need to attain in order to see those careers and see them as real for themselves. So I think there's a whole issue around that. I think there is an issue around funding. We do need more money in our schools. That is a real big constraint, and that knocks at all levels of the schools having enough money to do the extracurricular things, to do the core curriculum things,
Yeah.
and to do them well. So there's a big issue around that, and there's around funding of the teachers themselves. And this is why we're very clear in the Lib Dem manifesto about having taking off the cap on teachers' pay is a really basic, keeping public sector pay down to 1%, to take that cap off, to really change things there. And another thing that, when you talk to teachers and about the education system, Ofsted. Oh, I'm being Ofsteded. I mean, have you had people, colleagues? The whole experience is, I would say, not a positive one. The whole, and the sense that it doesn't add value, and the sense that yes, it's good to have inspections. It's good to have a system to make sure we are adding value, and that schools are adding value. But goodness me, couldn't we do it in a more constructive way? You know, like the kind of way that we're auditing. So that's very clear Lib Dem policy that we have about making that more constructive and less burdensome.
I mean, the other thing that I was certainly captured by, that inspiration seems to be your buzzword. Inspiring everyone around you.
Because the thing is, much like what Becky was saying, and even with the scrapping the cap, that's a Labour thing.
Yeah.
We're saying absolutely, like, you need to lift that. That was never not being said. But what my issue is, if you have, like I said in the school that I went to, if you went to a doctor's surgery and they prescribed every single patient the same medication, they'd be struck off for malpractice. Why do we put our children in an education system and expect everyone to do the same thing and expect to get different results? Everyone doesn't necessarily think, oh, I know, I would really like to be a lawyer, or I'd really like to be a doctor. Some people are like, I would really love to set up my own beauty salon. I know a lady that has her own company that's done marvellously. She's won awards. She's almost a millionaire. But where are you're not bringing those people in to speak. So it looks like, unless you're doing well, unless you're getting the grades that we think you need to get, we say we need A to C in these subjects. These are the core. And if you don't get A to C, then the children start labelling themselves and saying, actually, maybe I'm not good enough. You are good enough. You're absolutely good enough. And with the SATs results, I think the children are under so much pressure. Like, for example, the SATs of Peterborough, you brought in a new testing regime that they'd never done before. So they're sitting exams, and we're not going to look at grades, we're going to look at numbers, and we're trying to learn a new system and teach the children at the same time. And then we're going to say to the children, but you haven't quite hit it. So now we've got the lowest results. That doesn't do much for their morale.
So what do we need to do in terms of Peterborough that brings us up to par with the other cities within the United Kingdom, Fiona?
I think we need to look at the teaching that we're doing, but also look at the classes we have.
Sure.
If you've got classes like the schools I went to, you've got 30 pupils, English isn't their first language, so actually we're trying to teach them, and we're trying to find out where they are and work out where their capabilities are. If that means that you have to say to Ofsted or to the exam board, actually we want to sit this exam a little bit later, or these students can do it now but these ones need to wait, we shouldn't be punished for that, because actually you're trying to do what's in the best interest of the children, and that's what it always should be. And with Ofsted, when they say a school requires improvement, if they were very clear and said requires improvement means they need to satisfy these 4 things to become good,
that's right,
it wouldn't be such a sticking point. But because requires improvement, it looks like, oh my goodness, they're just out of special measures, this is horrendous.
That's true.
So people then see it as a very negative connotation.
And I completely understand that, coming from a GP practice myself, and when we have our CQC inspections, I can't tell you how much scrutiny we face, and a practice that has a rating of requires improvement, for example, could be wonderful and receive awards in the carers category, but are actually put down because they don't have everybody's DRB checks, or there's not enough chaperone training going on, or they haven't invested enough in their telephone lines. And there could be some brilliant doctors there. So it is. I completely agree with you in that regard.
I suppose it's in terms of, Becky, I'm going to come to you, but I mean, much of what we're saying, I suppose, we say to young children, and a lot of people involved in various institutions, running them, managing them, trying to provide services, educate them, or the learners themselves. Sometimes you start to label them, and children, you start hearing failure on and on,
Failures
that's not going to help you be inspired.
And you start hearing generalisations. I mean, references to people who don't have first language English. I mean, the findings are, and the evidence, that children who don't have first language English, often, particularly if they've immigrated here from another country, they have come from a culture of aspiration. So their expectation at home is that they will work and that they will be able to achieve things. And if they can't find what they want in Peterborough, they could move somewhere else even, because they've got that a much bigger vision, and they've visited other parts of the world, and all sorts of rich resources that they bring as people into the community. So those children, when you actually look at the statistics, those are the children who actually do best in the school, and they are pulling up the schools that we're seeing. That's what we're finding.
It's later that they do better.
In primary schools, you've some interviews with primary school heads. I didn't interrupt you, Fiona.
Sorry.
So I waited. So but I waited a while.
Let's move
so
on.
there are.
There is an
so labelling is an
for
issue.
children as they develop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think, and I think
you don't want
we need
to leave them scarred, I suppose.
We need to be very careful about labelling, as you say. So that's really what I was responding to, Ansar.
I think
any sort of generalisation.
I think what I was trying to say is, because if you look at the statistical evidence, if you go and speak on the ground and meet with people, if you're taking a child whose first language isn't English, they're absolutely fantastic and bright. That's not a labelling issue.
Absolutely,
what I'm saying is how the school approaches teaching them you need to bear that in mind. So you need to be mindful, because later on they are brilliant
you with the evidence on that, because the evidence is that those kids do actually achieve higher than the ones who start off with first language.
Absolutely. The thing is, we all know, and this is experience as a child myself, having a bunch of children that actually came over on a diplomatic enclave from Malaysia who weren't very conversant in English, but oh my goodness, did they whip us in maths.
Absolutely.
It happened. And I was a failure at maths. I don't know, Becky, being an engineer, was quite well versed in maths, or really good at maths and chemistry, and I wasn't. But I still, obviously, being English, I would say, is a first language for myself, made it into the medical field. In some respects, I'm inclined to agree with yourself, though, Fiona, that the achievement is apparent a lot more later on, and moulding a child from a grassroots level is very important to enable them with the confidence to perform and for them to aspire to achieve their goals.
I was just a bit concerned that there was a bit of a tone of being a bit negative towards our teachers in Peterborough, and because I think because that was the thing about treating all children the same, and I think that what our schools in Peterborough are excelling at is the very individual.
I think what Fiona was saying.
So I think we to get the proportion on that. There wasn't being
on its merit basis.
But absolutely. So that structures need to change.
And speaking with the teachers, they are doing an absolutely fantastic job, and that was the purpose of what I was saying. They're doing an absolute fantastic job, and when I've been to the schools to speak with the teachers, because you're asking what I'm going to do, it's working with those teachers and working with what they have, because they have had reduced funding. They are being squeezed, and they're doing a fantastic, phenomenal job, and we're trying to raise the aspirations and raise the attainment level, but not say to the teachers, oh, you haven't done good enough, because that's not the case. With what they have, because that was what
it sounded like that, so it's really good that you've clarified that, Fiona. Thank you.
I certainly understood that Fiona was very appreciative of the good work that's fun. You talked about the Ofsted inspection, the pressures, both of you mentioned that brings as well. And when the report comes out, needing requirement, etc., and you've been in classrooms, both of you spoken to many teachers as well. What is the morale like of the teaching profession at the moment?
I think it's really...
Sorry. No, you go.
One of you, okay.
Spoken. You go, Becky.
All right, Becky, go on. You can go first.
I think it's very variable, because it's the sense at the end of the year, and there are all these positive things where the teachers can see the children in their care, and the young people who are leaving their care, as it were, have really flourished, and they can see that tremendous thing. So it's a really sort of positive thing this time of year. Also at this time of year, I think the teachers I've spoken to are exhausted. It's so near the end of the year, they are the academic year, they're getting really tired, and then I think there's this kind of inspiration for next year with the moving up day this week in Peterborough. So the children were trying out their new schools, the ones that were moving schools. It's all a very exciting time for that.
Thank you for that.
So I think they manage that in the context of reduced resources and this, and it's that. Despite everything, a lot of public service workers do manage that, don't they, to keep at it. But morale is generally low, and people are leaving the profession. There are people who are teaching in Peterborough for their duration.
Fiona, you've been particularly concerned about as well, getting people, in these professions, valuable professions.
It's not just getting them, it's the retention. And that's the issue. I think with there's the recruitment, yes, but there's the retention of those that you've recruited. And I think with Ofsted, unfortunately, so when we talked about requires improvement, if you only need one thing or 15 things, it requires improvement. And so parents look at that and go, oh, requires improvement. Teachers are like, we've worked so hard. Look at all the fantastic things we've done. You come in for 6 days, if that, of a year, and then we get told we require improvement. So it can be quite a kick to your morale, I think, because they're doing a fantastic job, and they don't say, oh, do you know what, they're absolutely fantastic, we love this. When you look in the detail of the report, it is there where it says everything, but people look at that one line, so they like, did you get a good, did you get an outstanding, did you get requires improvement, and you got requires improvement, but there's lots of information about what you're doing fantastically and where they think the improvement's required, but people often miss that, and that affects teachers, I feel, because they're doing such a hard job. And then to think, imagine you've worked the whole year, it's coming to the end of the year, pupils are moving on, you're looking at this, you've now got to pull your socks back up again and go at it again in September when you come back, and make sure that actually by the time it comes around for your Ofsted inspection, you've met all the criteria they're setting for you, they're looking at the safeguarding issues, and you've got all of that. So it just becomes a little bit, in my opinion, not to make a generalisation, but a bit of a performance, because actually if we tick the right boxes and stand on one leg and give you the 5 oranges you're asking for, even though we've got 4 oranges and 1 apple, then we'll get what you want, and then that means that people will feel more positive about our school. I'm not saying there shouldn't be checks and balances, but we need to make sure it's always in the best interest of the children.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to take a short break in a moment. You are listening to Salaam Radio with me, Ansar Ali. and my co-presenter today, Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum, and we're delighted to welcome the newly elected MP for Peterborough, Fiona Onasania, who's joined us here in Salaam Radio Studios, and also Becky Selleck, who was one of the candidates in the general election here in Peterborough. Thank you very much for listening. We're just having this wonderful captivating conversation. Peterborough is a very diverse city, quite a lot of challenges as well, lots of issues, many positives, and we'll be talking about the positives, talking up Peterborough. That's the role of Salaam Radio. We've got to be proud of our city. Absolutely. And at the same time acknowledging the fact that we have challenges as well, and we will be getting the views of our MP and Becky Selleck about how we move forward with some of those challenges. Stay right where you are, and if you do want to give us a call in a very busy program, we will take some of your calls as well if you've got any comments or observations. But the last thing to say, we did try to contact another person as well that wasn't available, but Salaam Radio is here, always trying to serve the community. Back with you after this break, inshallah.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
1 in every 10 people live without access to safe, clean water. Let's give them a better choice than drinking either dirty water or no water at all. Together, we can turn this desperate situation around by delivering safe water solutions to the world's poorest people. Call 0161 225 0225 or visit humanappeal.org.uk.
Do you have lots of clutter at home or in the office that needs to be kept but nowhere to keep it? Ivet Self-Storage offers a secure, affordable, clean and dry home for your belongings. We have security systems in place which are monitored 24 hours a day, ensuring that your items are safe. With a simple monthly payment, Ivet Self-Storage provides secure and tailored facilities to meet your specific requirements, whether short or long term. We offer the best prices and longest opening hours in Peterborough. For more information, please call on 01733 306 456 or visit us at Ivet Way, Westwood.
Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
City Homes Estate Agents are your #1 independent family-owned agency in Peterborough. We offer a range of services including buying, selling, letting, mortgages and conveyancing. Why not call us today and find out for yourself why our customers return time and time again. We have a track record for achieving some of the highest prices in and around the area for our clients. With over 10 years of operating in the area, we are the experts in this market. Put us to the test today by calling 01733 348 677 and quote discount code RADIO for our exclusive rates for this promotion. City Homes, bringing people together for over 10 years.
आला बड़े पैसे आई गिने कराना दूरी वे काम शुरू कराए पैसे नहीं भाई यूके प्लम्बिंग एंड डीआईवाई नहीं ऑफर ही इस रानी है लाला यूके प्लम्बिंग वाले कड़ियां चीज़ां बेचने न करेगी अपग्रेड करनियां सारियां चीज़ां बाथां टॉयलेटां टैप्स बॉयलर रेडिएटर प्लम्बिंग फिटिंग्स पेंट स्टोर डीआईवाई टाइलां सारा कुछ बेचने नहीं चीज़ां कोई सस्तियां में बेचने को नहीं और साल ले 12 महीने इन्हां दी ऑफरां लगी होणियां नहीं और जल्दी कर मी पता दस होए मैं भी कराना काम शुरू करासां ऐ किन्ना पता.
Please visit us at Unit 2 Brassey Close, Lincoln Road Industrial Estate, PE1 2AZ, or call 01733 555 826. UK Plumbing and DIY, a name you can trust.
मेरा नाम आयशा है और मेरा ताल्लुक कश्मीर ऑर्फन्स रिलीफ ट्रस्ट मीरपुर से है। कोर्ट एजुकेशनल कम्प्लेक्स जरीकस मेरे ख्वाबों की जन्नत, जहां बेहतरीन देखभाल, आला तालीम, बेपनाह प्यार और मेहरबान शफकत हम सबको हासिल है। अब फेज 2 में 500 बच्चों और बच्चियों के लिए रिहाइशगाहें बन रही हैं और इसके लिए 9 करोड़ रुपए चाहिए। मुझे यकीन है आप मायूस नहीं करेंगे।
कश्मीर ऑर्फन्स रिलीफ ट्रस्ट 0300 123 774 court.org.uk।
This is Salaam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio, broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome back for the Ansar Ali show with Uncle Ansar Ali himself. Well, I call him Uncle because he's you're more older than I am, though I might not look it. Or I just tend to look after myself a little bit more, that's all I'll say.
Take it as a compliment, I think, Ansar, yes.
And it's wonderful to have Fiona Onasanya, Peterborough's new MP, on the show. Thank you very much for taking your time out to attend with us. And Becky Selig, the Liberal Democrat candidate in the most recent general election. And we are absolutely privileged to have you all on the show. And come on, give us those questions. Text on WhatsApp on 07745 278 978 or the studio telephone number on 01733 602 133. And of course, we've always got Facebook Live. So before the break, we were abuzz. The room was abuzz. The studio was abuzz with talk about education and where we need to improve. And the discussions and questions are only going to get more interesting, folks. So make sure you don't stay away. I've got a question, Fiona, from a brother Huck. He, first of all, congratulates you on your success and wishes you well, and has asked, what is your biggest priority for Peterborough?
So I think personally, just in respect of our city, I really want to clean it up. I want to look at waste management. There's many big issues, but I think one of the things that I'm doing is liaising with the council to see whether I can arrange for skips to be put around the city every month, and for us to have community action days to clear it up. Looking at places like Lincoln Road, looking at places like Gladstone Street, we need to make sure that we clean up our community. If it's clean on the outside, it makes you feel better, it makes you feel a bit prouder. Yes. There's other issues as well, as I set out in my maiden speech, but that's something very practical that we can do now, rather than like, I want to renegotiate the PFI terms for Peterborough Hospital. That's going to take time. I want a university. That's going to take time. Cleaning up the streets, me getting my litter picker, joining people, let's get these mattresses, sofas, let's get rid of this and make sure that we have a city that's clean and that we can be proud of.
Oh, that's brilliant. And am I wrong in assuming, I'm not going to be very popular now with my male colleagues or the people that are listening, is that a woman thing, just wanting to keep things clean?
I think my brother would probably agree with you and say, oh, if it's Fiona, it's definitely something to do with cleaning.
Absolutely,
I just think it's good to, if the outside is clean, it makes you feel good inside.
It does.
And I think that there's little things like that that we can do. And I've actually said, and I'm saying it openly on the radio, I'm happy to put my hand in my own pocket to fund the skips. It's not a money thing, because I know we have to pay for them, but I need to have, I want a rota, I want a schedule, I want us to clean them, community action days. Let's all come together, let's together clean up our community.
Wonderful. Now, Fiona, I'm going to steer the conversation a little bit to something that's quite pertinent.
Okay.
None of us are strangers to the fact that, number one, it was a very short election campaign.
Yes.
The second thing was, unfortunately, it really was tainted by the unfortunate terrorist attacks that took place in London, Manchester, the East Finchley happenings that took place outside a Muslim community centre. And as Stuart Jackson said in his commiseration speech, that he had a lack of the Muslim vote, which you know, caused his, as you would say, political demise, as it were. Now, a considerable percentage of Muslims voted for you in this election. Do you have a special message for the Muslim community who'd be listening in? Obviously, we being a Muslim radio station.
Yes. I would like to say, first and foremost, thank you for your support. I know the first weekend of the election, I went to the mosque. Ansar was very good in helping me to make contact and connections, and I was just in awe, one, of just the amount of respect and knowledge of your imams. They're just so commendable. But also, one of the things I said there, which I'll say now as well, is that people in positions of influence, or people that have been given a platform such as myself, we need to stand alongside the Muslims, the imams, and say, actually, they condemn this. But as well, if it's someone that's not of a certain ethnicity or not of a certain faith that is carrying out terrorist acts, they're still terrorist acts. You can't just say it's terrorist if it looks like one type of person that has one sort of following or one sort of faith, and it's not for the other. And that's something I struggle with, and I brought that up as well when we had the hustings. I was saying, they were saying, we need to look at terrorism, we need to get imams or mosques to condemn it. Absolutely, but you also need people at the top, on the radio stations, on the news broadcasting, to say driving a van into worshippers coming out of a mosque, that is a terrorist act. It took some time for it to be called a terrorist act. That's not okay. I'm happy to be that voice. I think that actually I need to represent and be a voice for everyone, but I'm mindful of the issues that they face. Absolutely. I myself am not a Muslim, but I respect, and I think actually what you're doing is commendable, and the amount of support, I can't tell you. I could have cried when I saw the amount of counsellors, honestly, at the polling stations, the families coming in their droves saying that they support me, like that. I can't even now, I can't articulate. I'm so grateful.
Well, it's good to know that you are like that. Unfortunately, we do see a trend whereby the positive attributes and a lot of the hard work that has been going on for many years, and I'm sure that Uncle Ansar Ali will agree with me, within Peterborough, is to the extent that we are fortunate in Peterborough to be identified as one of the very few cities in the United Kingdom as not having extremism within the city. And this is a statement that's been issued by the Chief Constable. But I think what I'd like to ask you is, it needs to be brought out a lot more. There are more good Muslims than there are those that associate themselves with a perverse form of Islam. And my question to you, Fiona, is would you be prepared to stand up in Parliament and actually be a voice for the Muslims who are doing an awful lot of work, especially here in Peterborough?
Absolutely, and even more, I'll go a step further, because actually what you would have seen in the press, there's been more attacks against Muslims, not Muslims being the perpetrators of it, but actually being the recipients of it. I have had some horrendous information given to me about things that have happened to a boy that was only 15, and he was harmed so badly that his back was falling out and he was cut down to the bone in both legs. Like that is not acceptable. That needs to be out there. The police need to investigate that. That is not something that I want in this city or anywhere, but certainly not on my patch. And I think I would be more than happy to stand up. In my maiden speech, when I was speaking about Palestine and Israel, what I was seeking to say is, look, we need to come to a place, I know there wasn't a vote on it at the time, but Labour is very, very clear that Palestine needs to be recognised in and of its own right. And so any kind of abuse or children that things are happening to, that is not acceptable. And I think that people need to understand that I'm not just a voice for Muslims, or just a voice for women, or just a voice for black and ethnic minority people. I want to be a voice on the whole, but we need to stand up and say this is not right. In Peterborough, we don't have people going out doing terrorist acts. The terrorism's being done to them.
Unfortunately,
it's being done to the Muslim community.
Absolutely. So this is where, given the support that you were given from the Muslim community, the question does arise, and there are many people that have their hopes invested in you as the MP of Peterborough to actually stand up for us, be that voice in Parliament, and encourage and publicise a lot of the very good work that is otherwise, I would say, brushed under the carpet by the mainstream media, which can be extremely exhausting and sort of a very despairing feeling towards those that are putting in a lot of hard work. the radio station is a prime example of that, at trying to integrate. So we've done an awful lot of work at integrating. I've often been asked this question, how much more work can you do as a Muslim community? My question is, how much more can you do to accept that we aren't? We're not acting under this perverse form of the religion, and it's individuals like yourself who represent us that we have this hope in. So it's encouraging to hear all of that indeed. And I think the thing that drew me to your maiden speech was the fact that you spoke about diversity within Peterborough, and that we are a very multicultural city, and we have always been, and we're very welcoming to different people of backgrounds, and regardless of religion, but backgrounds and nationalities. Do you identify any further gaps, and how would you plan on filling those gaps with regards to integration of these diverse communities with each other to improve their communication?
Okay, so I think with improving integration, like with the Medina Mosque, they had an open day.
Sure.
And I thought that was fantastic. They let you come in, they explained what they're doing, they sat down with us, they allowed you to ask questions, things that you're not sure of, things that people might not understand. Because also, if you bear in mind that with cultures, my background's African, there's a lot of things that we know, like Uncle Ali, that's normal to me. Like uncle, auntie, that's normal. But if you're bringing that outside of a culture to people that are like, why are you calling him uncle? You're not related. Like it's baffling, because that's not how it works. So it's more opening people's minds by being open, saying like we've got an open day. Me saying like Salaam Radio, next time when I'm on here, I just invite myself. Like to tweet and make people aware so that they can understand that we're not trying to close ourselves off and say it's us and them. We're saying actually it's us. It's all of us. And I said before, we're one race, human. Like we don't have to put all these little labels and stereotypes and plasters on, but to do that I have to be open. So it will help for me to stand up in Parliament and say I'm for the people, but for all the people. And actually we're all the same. Whether you choose to go against someone because of their faith or their skin colour or their gender, like all of that, you're just using a label to try and segregate someone. See us all together, let's be open. And I think your community has done that.
We've got more in common that unites us than divides us.
As Joe said, exactly.
And just in terms of coming back, Shmir, if you talked about the open days. I know Becky has been to the open day.
Several times, different mosques. It's wonderful.
As well. Last night we had what we've been doing this for about 3 years now, at Khatija Mosque, and we had about 6 or 7 ladies from the Women's Institute, and really the comments that they made, some of them said that they were very appreciative, and their perceptions before they came in that they would never be allowed in a mosque as women and as non-Muslim women, and these are the sort of stereotypes, negative perception that people have, that we have to break down with the help of people like you who are very active in the community, you being our voice in the House of Parliament.
Yes, and I think that's great. I'd just like to commend what you do, and because there are so many mosques in Peterborough that do open days, both in the February open our mosque thing and other times of the year, and that kind of working together that's facilitated by that is getting to know each other, and that's one of the things with the diverse community that we do with our coming from a secular space, our regular second Sunday of the month, my advert time, this 2 to 4 o'clock slot where we have a community cafe every month, and it's the street party this month, the July one on Sunday. This Sunday,
please come along to that.
And what we do,
Park Road area,
all that area, and we don't create boundaries. So even if you live the wrong side of Park Road, you are welcome.
Everyone welcome.
So it's this thing about boundaries and labelling of people, but and that is very much about our neighbours, because I think it's great that Fiona's championing in the Houses of Parliament, and that works on one level, doesn't it? But it's all of us individually, and it's not just when we go to our faith community or our women's institute or whatever group we go to. It's not just reaching out to the other ones of those, but it's actually physically where we live, our neighbours who are next to us, and that's something really important to get to know those people, because that's the space we share. That's the someone's dumped a mattress outside, how are we neighbours going to sort this out, or how are we going to welcome that elderly person across the road, and we're all a bit, has somebody seen her today, actually, is she okay? And those sort of building those sort of communities that do actually know and care for each other. And I think that's it's a really big work, and it's been made more difficult with Brexit because that has allowed more people to feel, it made more people feel more negative, made people feel unwelcome, and it's also allowed some hate crime stuff to go on. It's now allowed name calling. It's kind of permitted that, which is it's impacted on all sorts of people, hasn't it?
Which,
you know,
it has. And to be very honest with you, Becky, I mean, I do appreciate the fact that a lot of these street parties, but it's something that has been done before. You know, we've done, again, like you say, mosque open days, we've had street parties, we've had integration parties, you name it, we've had Eid in the park.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed that too. That was
the options are there, and the facilities are there, and the events are there, but the people, it's become a little bit more serious now. I think the time has come where law-abiding citizens of the Muslim community, like ourselves, are now identifying that we are at considerable risk of harm. And I think it's gone a little bit more beyond just holding street parties and open mosque days, and we really do need to address these things. So what's your opinion on that, and what would you do if you were in that position to try and facilitate?
That's a really good point. It's not just about the partying, glossing things over. It's about really getting to know each other, and that's where our regular sitting down and having a chat and actually finding the common points, and actually finding, oh, I didn't realise you could knit, you're into knitting as well, or whatever it is, that, or some type of music, and doing things together, creating things together, because we have music, or we've had some, you know, the people who have Alzheimer's disease, they find a lot of the people in that condition find it helpful to have something you can fiddle with. So there's a fiddle bag thing, and you know, one of us found that this was a useful thing and got a pattern, and then we all got together in different ways to make some of these, so we did things together as a community. So that builds us, because we're proud of ourselves and we're working together, so we're getting to know each other. It's not just woo partying.
Sure, no, but how does that change people's perceptions about a different religion to theirs, when there's a lot more evidence out there to show that right-wing extremism is on the rise. We've seen these nasty rallies take place in Birmingham. We've seen some horrible incidences take place, and it's not about sitting down and saying, what are your interests, what are mine? It's about educating people and actually saying, do you have these fixed ideas that Muslims in general are bad people, and it's about how to change them. We need to do something a lot bigger than that. Fiona, what's your take and opinion on that?
So for me, I think if you look, Islam is one of the fastest growing religions in the world. And actually, if you look, like when I was at the mosque and I was saying that Christianity and Islam, if you look at the Old Testament, they're very, very similar. Yes. And actually, like you said, what Joe Cox says, basically we have more in common than what we have between us that's contrary to what each other thinks. I think we need to actually stand up and be vocal. Actually, I think it's very good to work together, and I agree completely with what Becky's saying, because that does build communities, it builds relationships. But also, even more than that, is saying that actually we acknowledge that this isn't violent. If an imam standing up saying, we condemn this, if a fellow Christian standing up with an imam saying, we condemn this isn't what Islam's about. This is not what Islam's about. This is a perverse form of Islam. Likewise, right-wing, far-right mindsets and mentalities that say that it's okay to attack people, that's not okay. And that's something that I have an issue with, because I think personally, I've watched in the press, I've watched how they dealt with the man that murdered Joe, and but how he was just sat down on the side, and how it's just a lone wolf, and he shouted Britain first, which is a far right-wing movement, but that's okay because maybe he's got some mental health issues. And the man that drove a van into people, when it was done on Westminster Bridge, that's a terrorist act, but it took you how long to say it was a terrorist act? I have an issue with that. I think actually you need to have, it can't be one rule for some and another for others. There was a Caucasian male on the underground with a bomb that didn't detonate, but that wasn't considered a terrorist act.
Which is
Would
why
they have taken the same point of view?
Absolutely.
If it was someone from a different background.
Which is why it's instrumental to have your voice in Parliament, Fiona, to say that actually we aren't going to stand for this. It's not just speaking about the Muslim community per se, but it's labelling and stigmatising an entire race of people
Absolutely.
that are held accountable for these actions. And we can look at it in the wider global political environment. You have Mr. Donald Trump, for example. I need not say anything about what his thoughts and ideas. That's a completely different show, isn't it? But yes, we need a bit more voice.
And I think where we sometimes struggle, sorry Becky, I think where we sometimes struggle as well is because to be Muslim is not a race. So that's why certain media outlets get away with it, because but we're not being racist because we're talking about a faith.
Sure.
And actually no, because what you're doing is you're stereotyping what it means to be Muslim.
Sure.
That's the issue that I have. Sorry Becky.
I think there's a danger that we get into a space where we can be quite negative about things. And there was a super event at TDA a couple of weeks ago. I think you were there, Ansar. The challenging you as well. Challenging Islamophobia, and that was about. A lot of that was about celebrating. It was about acknowledging things that are unhelpful and moving on, not getting really entrenched about saying they're doing this to us, but moving on and moving in and doing things and taking ownership and celebrating positive things. And I think Peterborough is really rather good at that, and that's why we help that. There's the Portuguese festival coming up. We have lots of celebration of diverse cultures, and the Eid in Central Park was a great celebration.
Absolutely.
I love going to that. I live nearby. It's brilliant. So it's these things that huge diversity and a huge celebration of that is another end that can focus people on engaging together.
Be proud of the diversity that we have. Our brothers and sisters, you're listening to Salaam Radio with me, Ansar Ali, Dr. Shabina Sadkium, and we have our newly elected MP, Fiona Onasania, with us, and Becky Selig. Just a reminder that we want to have this conversation about some of the topics as well as welcoming our new MP, and we did invite a Conservative councillor as well. Unfortunately, they apologised because of another commitment, they couldn't make it. But Salaam Radio is always embracing everyone to give and share their views. The idea of our discussion is to create a better society. Okay, that's what it's all about, creating a better, harmonious, peaceful society as well. We've had another question as well.
We have indeed. We've had a question from a young Mr. Asim, who has asked this question from you, Fiona. Schools and colleges have seen a rise in mental health issues. What will you do to tackle this?
So Labour and actually the Conservatives in Parliament, we're saying that we need to give mental health the same priority as physical health.
Sure.
It's very, very, I think the statistics are 1 in 4 people suffer with some form of mental health illness or issue in their lifetime. So it's a very, very serious issue. What we're trying to look into is the funding for it. We need people to be able to access the help they need at the earliest possible stage. These waiting lists that are going on for, you could be waiting for 18 months. That's not suitable when actually you've got it.
But that's really interesting, because that was picking up a Lib Dem policy that when we were in coalition, it was Norman Lamb who was the health minister that brought in having for waiting lists exactly the same targets for mental health as physical health, because that was the best way of actually getting the same priority set. Because you can talk about it being important, but it can be just talk unless you've got a measure on it. And there's some really good stuff that was brought in by Norman Lamb and the Lib Dems during the coalition that is now being built on. So I think that's something that's really to recognise.
I can tell you, Becky, I've been a GP for the last 10 years, and I was around when the coalition was around, and I was referring people to the mental health teams and the counselling, and they were still waiting for 3 months to be seen. When they were suicidal.
It takes time, doesn't it, to make for these.
We're still waiting.
Because
we still have patience
to be moved across. But what I was saying was it's concrete things like that. That's measures at the high level that then enable the funding to flow and make those really fundamental shifts rather than the nice words.
We just about reached the end of the programme. We want about a couple of moments as well. We've touched on so many issues, lots of positives, some challenges. We all have to work together. Salaam Radio is always going to be at the forefront, helping our communities, diverse communities of Peterborough, to work together on some of the challenges that we have. And I know, Fiona, you as our MP, you have already highlighted that you share the challenges that we have, and you will be doing your best to try and raise them at the highest level. You'll be working with the communities to tidy up the streets, to make sure that we have more pride in our neighbourhoods. And that's very important as well. When people come and drive into our neighbourhoods, walk into our streets, if they're nice and clean, free from mattresses and what have you. It's much more welcoming. The bushes are cut on time. The grass is cut. All this is good, and we'll all be working together on this. Let's agree to make sure that we will always have differences of views, but the common goal is for the good of society and our people.
Great, absolutely.
That's wonderful. And thank you very much, both of you, for taking your time out here and giving some really interesting views. I think that a lot of the community will be encouraged by what's been said today, don't you think, Uncle Ansari? It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for your contribution, and hopefully being a voice for the many and not the few.
Yes. Exactly.
Thank you.
Just a reminder once again, Becky will never forgive me if I mention once again that there is a street party from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. this Sunday, 9th of July on Princess Street.
And everybody is welcome.
Please come along and let's celebrate the diversity of Peterborough on Princess Street. Come along and share your culture, your faith, and just talk to other people.
Your food, your dancing, your music. We've got lots on, guys.
Thank you.
And Fiona has already said that she's going to be out and about talking to people. And
we'll be tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll be in Peterborough Cathedral Square tomorrow, so I will see
sure we'll bump into you.
Yes, yes, you will.
Thank you
very much.
I really appreciated that. The time, an hour, just wasn't enough.
It wasn't. I know, and I have my few nitpicks with you as well, Uncle Ann, so that we could have a bit of good banter if we did this show regularly.
I think that means that Dr. Shabina is going to be a regular contributor. I get the hint. But no, thank you very much. It's been an enormous privilege. It
has been
having three of you here, and thank you very much. I thank Qasim for arranging much of the structure of the program. Asim is here as well. Naomi for all their help as well. We've got a wonderful team here on Salaam Radio. Everyone works voluntarily, and we are all grateful for all the efforts that everyone makes here on Salaam Radio on behalf of all our communities. Salaam Radio is here to unite our communities, to promote integration and tolerance, and I'm sure that you will help us with that. If you have any views and thoughts, make sure that you share them with us. Make Salaam Radio your number